Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter, or of course you can subscribe to the channel. Let's Talk Boxing. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody that has signed up to the channel, new subscribers and stuff. We're up to 4.37k now. I'm so delighted to have each and every one of you. You know, I look at the numbers of some of the recent videos, the two Canelo videos, the Canelo Bivol videos, the preview and the review, 6.5k and 6.3k so far. The defense of Dillian Whyte, 3.1k. The preview of the Dillian Whyte fight with Fury was 9.9k. 5.6k for the review, 5k for Spence Ugas. I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm so humbled, man, that so many people want to log on and spend their time to listen to what I've got to say, watch my videos and stuff like that. Genuinely, man, I've always said you guys really do enrich my boxing experience. I love chatting to you guys. There are so many comments coming in now. I've been really struggling to keep up with replying to all of them. I always do my best, and I will continue to do my best. I do read each and every one of them, so I really want to thank you guys. But I also want to continue to put out the content, and I do want to talk about Dmitry Bivol and Canelo Alvarez. And a lot of time subscribers will know that I like a little bit of a psychological deep dive here, and to really analyze what goes on behind the curtains of the human mind of these fighters. And Dmitry Bivol has given an interview which is very revealing. He gave it to Michelle Joy Phelps, and we'll get to that in a moment, because it really shows you this guy's personality. You know, not many channels or pundits, experts, fighters, former trainers picked Dmitry Bivol. Not many. Some of us did, right? I'm going to continue to gloat. I'm going to continue to gloat for a long, long time. But the vast majority did not. And it had nothing to do with his abilities. It has to do with the fact that this man is not particularly out there in the public eye, because he's quite unassuming. He's softly spoken. But make no mistake, this is a very bad man. If you were to see Dmitry Bivol in a dark alley in the dead of night, and he's walking towards you with his hood up, and you get a good look at that face, you're going to see that baby face, you're going to think, there's no trouble here, until he throws a two-piece on you and starts coming in and out of rage. And then all of a sudden, you know you're in trouble. What are you going to do? You ain't calling Canelo Alvarez for backup, I'll tell you that much right now. But the point is, he's a bad man. But because of that giggly personality and that quiet demeanor, that stoic personality, people seem to think that this guy was just not really a threat. He wasn't a braggadocious, loud, American say sort of fighter who's got a lot of pizzazz about him and things like that. He's not like that. He's very much a case of let me focus on what's what. But a big part of that is the language barrier, because now he's started to show a bit of personality, and you're starting to see a bit of an alpha male. Before we get into that new revealing interview and his aims that are particularly predatory, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that occurred pre-fight and post-fight which start to reveal this predatory nature of Dmitry Bivol. First and foremost, he was not allowed to have his nation's national anthem. Regardless of what your position is on the geopolitical situation here, regardless, okay, it doesn't matter whether you agree with that or disagree with it. It doesn't matter. From his perspective, he's proud to be from that country. He wasn't allowed to have that. He also wasn't allowed to have the flag of his nation on his shorts, something that he has done and had for all his fights. The Cedric Agnew fight, pretty much the whole one side of his leg was that flag. So you're talking about a proud man, proud of his culture, proud of his heritage, and so on and so forth. And he felt as though he couldn't be allowed to use it to represent himself. But additionally to that, you've had a lot of people calling for him to be banned, to not be allowed to fight Canelo Alvarez, and so on and so forth, despite the fact that this is an individual private citizen who has done nothing wrong. He is not responsible for the acts of his government in the same way like none of us are responsible for the acts of our governments and the very, very questionable and immoral, at times, foreign policy steps that our own governments have taken. But nonetheless, he's living in the United States, and he has been at the eye of the storm with a lot of people putting it on him and not wanting him to partake. So you've got a guy who is also a champion and is forced to walk down to the ring first rather than second, breaking protocol to allow the cash cow, Canelo Alvarez, to come down to the ring as though he's the champion. Now, when all these things are swirling around you like a storm, there's two things that can happen. You can either become enveloped by it and you can just be washed away, or you can get the eye of the tiger and you can say, I can't believe these lot are doing this to me, man. You know what? I'm going to ruin the party. And what did he say and do post-fight? First and foremost, he said, sorry, Eddie, that I had to ruin the Canelo Golovkin fight for you. He's mocking Eddie Hearn. He's mocking Matchroom. He probably holds him responsible in the back of his mind for those close scorecards, right? 7-5 after what I just did. Did you lot really try to rob me? Well, okay, you tried to rob me. Sorry, I had to break up your party. But it doesn't end there, does it? Because he was asked, did Canelo Alvarez at any point hurt you? And he sarcastically replies, yeah, he hurt me. And then there's a slight pause. And he said, my arm. He hurt my arm. And there was laughter. Because Canelo Alvarez could only hit the bicep and the shoulder for large portions of the fight. That's what he was aiming for, in the hope that he could break down that lead hand of Dmitry Bivol, so that he could then start to tee off on him, something that worked for him against Callum Smith. So now he's mocking Canelo Alvarez. Well, he's taken it to a new level. He was given an interview with Michelle Joy Phelps, and she said to him, a lot of people are saying that the weight is just too much of a step for Canelo Alvarez. Now, this is a backhanded compliment, because what this is doing is saying, great job, Bivol, you beat Canelo, but ultimately it's just that he went up too far in weight, right? That's all it was. He went up too far in weight. Bivol said, Canelo is not a natural light heavyweight. I could feel that. But you know what? Neither am I. He's got his belts at 168. We could fight for those at 168. See, Canelo Alvarez is still the undisputed super middleweight champion. And this is why I was saying this dude does not deserve to be relegated from the pound for pound list. You may not have him at number 1 anymore. Maybe he's your number 2. Maybe he's your number 3. Personally, for a long time, I felt as though, there was an argument to be made that 1 or 2 others were potentially number 1 pound for pound. He's become super middleweight undisputed champion. He went up. He became, bear in mind, middleweight. There were some controversies there, whether he was the true king of the middleweight division. Most people, like myself, felt that Golovkin was the true guy that beat him. He should have been the true king. At super middleweight, he became undisputed. Then he goes up to light heavyweight, and it's a great win on paper, beating Kovalev, regardless of what your position was on Kovalev and the whole fight there. We know there's been a whole bunch of stories going on about that one. Regardless, on paper, it's a great fight. And we know that Kovalev, though, wasn't really at his peak for whatever reason. Now, that aside, you look at other guys, Usyk, Bud Crawford, have they really achieved less after they've become undisputed? So they too would have had a say in it. But the undisputed cash cow, the face of boxing, is Canelo Alvarez. And he is still the super middleweight undisputed champion. And what is Bivol saying? Bivol's saying, wait. You think weight's the problem? I will come down to super middleweight and I will take everything that boy owns. I will rip away those titles. I will ruin his career. There'll be nothing left of him. I would have taken his dreams away at light heavyweight, then I'll take his belts at super middleweight. That is a predator's mindset. Dmitry Bivol ain't playing. He might look soft and meek, but think about what he's had to go through mentally as the underdog, what he knew he had to overcome with the judges, and how he's now targeting Canelo, not just at light heavyweight. I'll come into your territory. I'll come to your kingdom. I will invade your castle and I will loot all your treasures, because that's who I am. And let's not forget that Dmitry Bivol wanted the fight with Beterbiev, and I'm sure Beterbiev wanted the fight too. But Bob Arum gave an interview to say that they weren't interested in that fight because there just wasn't enough money in it, because Bivol is just boring. Come again? You know that Beterbiev's not a cash cow. So if you want to turn your boy into a cash cow, Bob, you know what you got to do, right? You got to help him turn into an undisputed champion. If he becomes the undisputed champion at light heavyweight, trust me, there's going to be some big fights there for for Beterbiev, whether it's against Canelo Alvarez, whether it's against whoever else at light heavyweight. There are some big emerging talents in the division. You're going to have some big money fights there. Maybe you want to step him up after that to cruiserweight. Who knows? Make him undisputed and the big money fights will come for Beterbiev. So what do you mean you don't want that undisputed fight with Bivol? What's that all about? Perhaps it's because he knows that Bivol is a master boxer puncher and Beterbiev is a beast. They can both win that fight. It's a high risk fight for both dudes. But I just want you to think about something. Like I said, just have a little gloat again. There weren't that many of us that picked Bivol to beat Canelo, right? Because he's meek, because he's not out there, because he's not braggadocious and brash, okay? But within 3 fights of that, Canelo twice and Beterbiev once, he has the opportunity to become the super middleweight undisputed champion and then the light heavyweight undisputed champion. He's 2 fights away. One of them against the guy he just feels I've schooled. I could do it again. Even though, yeah, he might be sharper at super middleweight and I might be struggling a little bit more. I'll have to push myself. I'll be a little bit more drained. But I had enough in the tank to go through more gears. I'm going to be able to do this, dude. That's probably how he's thinking. I'll take all these belts. Then I'll go after Beterbiev. Now you're talking about a Hall of Fame level career. So from being relatively unknown and people not really knowing, he's a good fighter, he's going to give some problems, but pretty much everyone's picking Canelo. Going from that to within 3 fights, a 2-weight undisputed champion, Hall of Fame fighter. And you know from the way he's talking and the way he's thinking and acting, that's on his mind. This is a predator, guys. He ain't playing. This boy wants all that smoke. Now, whether he manages it or not, I don't know. Beterbiev's a monster. But it's in his mind. This is what Bivol wants. Don't let that cool, meek, giggly, baby-faced, assassin-type character fool you. This boy's a beast. Let me know what you think, ladies and gents. You know what I'd love as well, by the way? You know what I'd love? I want you to think about this, right? Let's say he doesn't fight Canelo next. And the Canelo-Golovkin fight does go ahead in September for the undisputed super middleweight titles. Then you have Bivol against Beterbiev for the undisputed light heavyweight champion. And then the winners face each other. Whether it's Canelo getting a rematch and he'll feel like he's better than ever and stuff like that, they could build it up like that, or whether Golovkin was to do the unthinkable and beat Canelo at this age. Could you imagine? We've just spoken about what would happen to Bivol's career if he became the super middleweight undisputed champ and the light heavyweight undisputed champ. Could you imagine Golovkin beats Canelo? A long reigning middleweight champion becomes the undisputed super middleweight champion and then gets one last shot, one last hurrah at the undisputed light heavyweight champion against whether it's Beterbiev or Bivol. Imagine he was to win that. Well, now we're talking legacy, right? That's next level legacy. So imagine you start seeing these as semi-finals, what it would do for boxing. These guys have got to start thinking outside the box. Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum need to come together, sit around a table and say, listen, Beterbiev is the one that's not with the zone here. He's the one that's outside of the thing, outside of the equation. Don't be stupid, Bob. There's history to be had here. There's legacy to be had. Let's make these fights happen. Let me know what you think, ladies and gents. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.